Hello, this is Francis Christie. I'm a certified professional coach, and this is the story of one of my coaching clients, Andrew Machon. Andrew.
Yes.
Thank you for agreeing to talk to me. I wonder if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, Francis. So I'm Andrew Machon. What would I say about myself? I'm a businessman. I've worked in business for 30 years. I'm an executive business coach, so I'm very interested, I know like you, in people development.
Right.
I'm a man whose purpose in life is all about enabling others to be at their best. And I think for me, that often gets turned inward, which is how do I enable myself to be at my best? So topics like leadership and self-leadership, coaching, I love coaching. I'm also an international coach trainer. I feel very privileged. I've worked across the world in coach training and also in coaching supervision.
Right.
But the essence of my life is all about enabling others to be at their best and how I can do the same thing for myself.
Wonderful. And in addition to that, you're involved in photography and other interests.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I sometimes leave that to the side, and yet it's so important, as we found through our great coaching work. My creativity is my vitality. And often I can forget and just sideline those things, but I'm a really passionate photographer. Not only photographic media, but also things like etching, and some of the contemporary methods of printing I'm really interested in.
Fascinating. So you seem to be very successful in professional and personal life, Andrew. Why were you looking for a coach?
Oh, I needed a coach. I think I've realised through my own experience that there are times in life where no matter, in a way, how good you are or how good you think you are, or even if people project things like intellect and intelligence, sometimes I really, really do believe that we require a special other. I think of it as a significant other.
So what prompted you to look for a coach?
Well, I found that there was things that I was not able to resolve myself that were turning round in my head. And it felt really important that I found, what I think of as that very significant other.
So, odd as it may seem, why did you choose me?
I was very clear about choosing Francis. Some of the qualities that you have as a person and a coach really, really attracted me. Things like you're a very solid individual. I know from working with you, you're very clear on boundaries, very containing, very strong, willing to challenge. All these things I knew I needed. And when I put it all together and thought about a number of individuals, you were the one that I wanted to work with.
Thank you, Andrew. So when we began working together, you were experiencing a lot of different pressures on you. And we put together a plan about what you would like to address. Do you remember that?
I do.
And there were some significant things in there. For example, you were finding the pressures of work quite substantial. Would you like to share a little bit of that?
Yeah. What I was finding is that my life seems to be a dedication to helping others. And that, even though I know, it's meaningful, purposeful, something was missing. And I think what was missing for me is that somehow I'd forgotten myself in the equation. I realise that now, thanks to our coaching, but before that, something was missing. I seem to be successful. People keep telling me, Andrew, you're so successful. I wasn't feeling it. There was something in me that felt quite unfulfilled.
So I asked you to list some of the things you wanted to cover in coaching. Do you remember some of the key points?
Yeah, I do. There was several things. Certainly there was this aspect of how could I bring in my creative self. Things seem to have got quite arid in some way, that I was always sidelining the creative part of me, and what I subsequently realised is that that's vital to my life. So that was one thing. Another thing I was thinking about was a real longing to be in Spain. I have a place in Spain, a second home, a small home, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. But was I permitting myself to be there, to include it as part of my business? No, for some reason. And that was another piece I remember bringing to the table. Yeah.
So giving yourself permission to look after yourself.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned through working with you is that the one person I seem to have forgot was me. In a very dedicated life about serving others.
That seemed to play particularly strongly in one coaching session that we had, where about halfway through we seemed to be getting stuck. You were anxious about the amount of work that you were committed to. Do you remember that?
I remember it vividly. And it was one of the most remarkable interventions I've ever witnessed as a coach. I remember you saying to me, we were talking about responsibility, and you said to me, what if I were to take all your work off you? And that was a lovely idea. But what really, really surprised me was I gave it to you, the whole lot.
Yes.
And I remember Francis remained very calm, because there was no, I'd like to take this back or I'd like to take that back.
Right.
I remember you holding it for me, and it was a revelationary moment for me that I didn't want to carry the burden of that responsibility anymore, nor did I need the work.
Yes, it's a marvellous moment.
Profound intervention, and one I'll always be grateful for. What was even more remarkable, I think you carried my work around with you for a while from one session to the next, very carefully contracted, until I was really ready to think about what did I want to take back.
Yes.
That was really profound for me. And, and I can't imagine how I could have worked that out myself. I've sat with papers, shall I do this, shall I do that? But your intervention was a real profound intervention about let me have it all, let me take it all. And that really made me realise that I was ready to surrender something.
Yes.
And that surrendering was a real liberation for me.
I think it also seemed to give you permission to look after yourself as well.
Hallelujah is what I would say. And, it's interesting, I'm a coach and I know these philosophies and they come into my practice. But they say, when you've finished all your work, you come back home. And I think our coaching work for me really came back home because we explored how willing I was to put me in the equation, not only in the equation, but what about being priority, not in a selfish way. More, it's about selfness, self-respect, self-care, self-worth. That was a really important piece that you enabled in me.
Right. It seemed also to release something of the artistic side of your character as well.
Oh, that was wonderful. I think that was really wonderful. I remember us talking about topics that I brought out called golden time, which was, could I permit myself to schedule in my working week and days time purely for creativity, and I hadn't realised how much I long for that time.
Yes.
And that was vital and central, and I did it. I remember going into my diary, I still do, and using a golden pen and scheduling out time, which is creative time, purely creative time, and I have benefited so much from that, not only personally but professionally. I've started to be a lot more innovative rather than rational, and much more creative rather than black and white, purely because I've been given myself permission to play a little more, which is how I see it.
And what are some of the things that you've been working on, Andrew?
Wow. Well, one of the things that's emerged from this is a book. So there's a book, it is a creative book around coaching and coaching mastery. I have an idea of turning the concept of mastery on its head and looking at it from the inside out, which we tend not to. In the profession, we tend to assess it in terms of advanced skills. I'd like to turn it inside out, and I think then it may become a much more accessible topic.
What about your photography?
Remarkable time. Remarkable. I started to do what I've been longing to do for years, which is to go and photograph the Northern Lights. And I've had chance through our coaching conversations to understand much more deeply what that was about, to go out at night, to be alone at night and to photograph the Northern Lights. It's been an adventure that I do not want to end. I'm still utterly committed to the call of that, and it's much deeper than I'd imagined, and it's taken me to places and quiet episodes where I've understood so much more about myself. Thanks to that, you enabled me through holding that time to make a very important choice.
Good. And in addition, one of the other areas was the possibility of spending more time in Spain. How is that developing?
It's great. One of the things I've learned from coaching is if you set an intent to do something, it can happen. And you enabled me to set an intent about Spain being a place where I could choose to work. It evolved over the course of that experience that yes, I can work in Spain, and yes, it's a beautiful place to work, but I realised through our conversation that Spain is even more important beyond work. The close to nature piece there, permission just to enjoy and be natural, was, I think, the missing piece of my jigsaw. So exploring how I can permit myself to be there has opened up just so much more of my creativity, and I'm closer now, much, much closer to finding fulfillment.
Oh, wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your coaching experience, Andrew?
I'd like to say, in all honesty, that I chose the right coach. I want to say this. One of the things I really appreciated about you, Francis, is that let me do it in my words. So you don't mess around. You invite people to do the real work, and I feel that, and I really appreciated it because it permitted me to go to the places I needed to go and to do the real work. It's almost like, we've got this precious time, Andrew.
Yes.
Let's use it. And I really, I think that is one of your unique contributions, is that you're very willing to do the real work. And what that does in me is that it invites me to do my real work. I'm not pussyfooting around the edges. I'm meeting you as a coach and really doing that most important work. And I will always be grateful for that. And it's a quality you have that I don't often see in coaches. That together with your, you're such a solid, challenging soul, it's challenging in a very positive, bringing out the best way. That combination of those qualities was brilliant for me. Brilliant.
Well, it's been a real pleasure working with you, Andrew. Thank you for sharing your story.
That's a pleasure. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.